Hi everyone. I just wanted to let you guys know towards the end of this video, maybe the last 3 or 4 minutes, the mic ran out of battery, so you will hear an audio difference. These are one-take videos, straight from the heart, straight from my personal experience, no scripts, no nothing like that. So I didn't want to reshoot the video or make any type of edits whatsoever. So what you're about to watch and listen to is straight raw. So just to let you guys know, it don't sound horrible, but you could definitely tell the difference between the mic audio and the regular audio. Anyways, with that said, enjoy the video. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Retirement Resilience. My name is Jason, and today we're continuing the story of how I was forced into retirement at the age of 29 and the series of events that followed after. The hardship, I know most people when they're retiring, I've listened to a lot of stories up to this point where people had vision, no pun intended, and had a plan, a retirement plan, or at least they thought they had a retirement plan, or it was as simple as just saying, I worked long enough, let me go ahead and just start the next chapter of my life. And they're finding out that the reality of that is different for everybody. There's a lot of people that struggle in retirement. A lot of people are forced into retirement. Some people choose to retire, and they realize that the way our world works is depending on what era you retire in and kind of dictates whether or not you'll be able to have an easier retirement, or maybe you might have to figure life out differently. And I was finding this out at a very early age. So if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. And if you're liking what you're hearing, go ahead and do me a favor and hit that thumbs up as well. All right, so fast forwarding all the way back up now, just a real quick recap. Worked at the age of 8, doing side jobs, got my first job at 15, lost it at 29, was a single dad, lost the ability to drive, was losing my vision, was deemed legally blind. At the end of the last video story, I did find somebody who decided they were going to date me and give me a shot, and this is where we're at. And the reality is I was pretending. I was not living in a reality. I was not looking at things correctly. And the decisions I was making were purely emotional and not logical. I wasn't seeing the truth that was sitting in front of me, which is I am not in a position at my age, at 30, 31-ish at this time, to take care and take on a wife she had children herself and stepchildren. And it wasn't the worst experience in the world, but it really set me up for more heartache, more financial distress, working really hard to make something work that probably never was going to happen to begin with. It wasn't done in your traditional proper way. It wasn't natural. On my end, I'm speaking for my end, and maybe hers too. It was forced, and in this process, in this short-term process, we brought another child into the world together. So now, not only do I have a son, I have a daughter as well. So yeah, this is about in 2007, my daughter was born. And so this is just 4 years removed from me having to relocate, to the Central California area as a single father. And now I'm bringing another child into the world. And shortly after she was born, things started to get really dicey. The finances, we were struggling financially. We were on 2 separate pages. We were 2 different people. Things got a little heated. She wanted to be taken care of financially. I didn't have the means to do so. And now we brought a new child into the world. It created a whole slew of other problems. And then the reality came back to bite me that, she needed something I could never give her, and she left. And not only did she leave, she left my daughter with me as well. So now I'm on a set income of SSDI and a supplementary income for having children. But the money didn't change. The money doesn't go up, right? I got a supplementary check that stayed the same amount for both kids. So now I'm in the same situation financially, with the exception that I have a whole nother person to take care of and feed and clothe and nurture and all those things. Meanwhile, dealing with the idea that I'm alone again. I'm not man enough to have a woman in my life. And I was left with all the debt, all the bills. I had still had good credit from my past life. And I, at the time, had bought her a van that she left. She left it to me, and I can't drive. So now I have a van, a payment. And not only did I not have the money to pay it, I couldn't even use it. So, I mean, needless to say, now I have a repo on my credit. The PG&E was out of control. I couldn't pay the PG&E. We had a larger place, so we had a 3-bedroom apartment in a nice little area, and on my income, I couldn't afford it. Basically, I lost it mentally. I literally couldn't realize what was happening in front of me. I couldn't make sense of the decisions I made. I made them in a place of desperation once again. It kind of reminded me of the time when I found out first that I had this eye condition, and I kind of started making some really poor decisions that led me to having my son. I guess history, they say history repeats itself, right? Well, history was repeating itself again at this moment. I'm in the middle of this crisis of my life where I'm on this set income. Nothing's changing. Nobody's giving me opportunity. Nobody's giving me a job. More to come to on that. And I tried without hesitation, man. I tried. I've met people. I tried to network. I tried to find, positions. They view people who have visual impairments as a liability, and it's very, very hard to convince people otherwise. It's not the end of the world. There are very good people out there, and there's very good organizations that aim to help. But, here I am. I had to deal with the reality that my life will never be normal. My life was never, I wasn't going to be able to hit a reset button and take things backwards and be able to have the opportunity to restart my life financially in the traditional way that I have always worked so hard to do. All the success I had from the age of 8 to 29 and going from sweeping floors at a barbershop at 8 to being part of a management team at a grocery store and a union and having all these opportunities at my fingertips and making good money, that era of my life was cut and it's gone, and it didn't look very likely that I'd be able to do so. So, now I have to figure it out. Now I have to find a new pathway, a new way to kind of set the stage for myself. And I was done making bad decisions. This was it for me. I didn't know what else to do next. Have you ever felt like you were in that position? Have you ever found yourself either before your retirement or now that you're in retirement that maybe you feel like you retired too early, maybe you retired too late, maybe it's a physical thing you're dealing with, maybe it's an emotional thing you're dealing with, or just financially, right? Maybe making poor financial decisions. Well, I checked every box at this point. It wasn't my choice to retire early or to live a retirement lifestyle. That was essentially forced on me. But at the time, like that was the reality I lived in. I had some physical issues. I was never really dealt or accepted the fact that, that term that was used that to the day I understand it today, didn't understand it then, was the word legally blind. I wasn't coping with the idea that I was disabled. I wasn't just a retiree at an early age. I was a disabled retiree at a very early age. Never dealt with that. Kind of just pushed that to the side and was like, you know what? It's good. It's good. It don't exist. Because again, even to this day at 52, I can see. I don't see detail. I can't read a book. I can't read my mail in a normal fashion. I can't read a restaurant menu when I'm sitting down ordering food. Like there's a lot of things I can't see, like a lot of things that are blurry, a lot of things that are out of focus. And I didn't realize then what I do now, which my whole life was out of focus. And it really started with not dealing with the fact that I was a disabled retiree at 30. That's just the reality. And I never really coped with it. I was a single dad of 2 children who had a disability, who had a set income, and was just trying to figure life out. And the only blessing that I had in that process, to be honest with you, is the ability to be home and raise my children to the best of my ability. Outside of that, it was a mental struggle. It was a financial struggle, which led into hardship in my health because, if you remember, I have Crohn's disease as well, which stress doesn't help that out. The type of food I eat don't help me out. So, I mean, there's a lot to come about when we talk about retirement in all these different categories, and that's a whole nother video at another time. But at some point, reality had to really come to me and slap me in the face and be like, you know what, Jason, enough is enough. Only you can change your circumstance. Only you can make better decisions. Stop living in a fantasy world and finally stand up, look reality in the face, and just accept where you're at. And that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at this part of the story. I had to hit the reset button once again. Once again, I found myself packing up my belongings and heading back to my mother's house. Mom, here I come again. Broken, financially destroyed, and even more than I was the first time, just lonely and destroyed, like mentally not okay. I was not okay. And I needed solace. I needed something to hold on to. I needed hope. And that's where we're at. Anyway, once again, I just want to appreciate everybody for listening. The stories are going to start getting better. Like we're turning the chapter. You know, I'm about to learn some really key lessons on life, on retirement, on dealing with a set income, you know, how, you know, the things that seem to hold us back are only opportunities for us to get better. And that's what this is about. And I'm kind of facing it again. And I'm looking forward to sharing this process with you guys, setting the stage of how I even got here, but how I'm going to move forward in fixing my problems. So anyways, again, retirement is not the end. It is just a test for who you become next. My name is Jason. This is Retirement Resilience, and I will see you in the next video.